Hello felting friends, this week we're going to be doing a picture of the moonlight on the ocean. It's a nice picture, it's not too hard, and really if you've got a few different blues you can make this quite simply. I'm excited to show you how it's done, so let's crack on and make this lovely picture. So what I've got here is 100% wool felt, and this is only a small picture, it's not as big as my normal ones, because I thought it might be nicer to do something a little smaller this week. I haven't done a drawing to go with it because quite honestly you don't really need one, and all I've marked off is the moon, and I had two lines there. The top line is what I thought was going to be my horizon line, but I changed my mind and put it a bit lower, so ignore that little top line. So I've got my darkest blue here, and this is going to be the sky we're working on at the moment. So I'm going across my horizon line with my darkest blue, partly because I want the horizon in the distance to be dark, and I want a nice straight line so that I can mark off the sea from the sky and its level. We will go back and double check the levelness of it later. So I started with the dark one, and then I've gone up to something slightly lighter. So if you have, what you really could do with for this video is a dark blue, a medium blue and a light blue, and if you've got those you'll be able to do the whole picture. So I started off with a dark blue, then I mixed some medium blue and dark blue together to give that slightly hazy look, and these are the colours I'm now mixing together, and we're going to do a lot of the sky with these colours. And then we're just going to build up. I'm going to have it dark around the edges, and then I'm going to put some lighter in the middle. So I'm just roughly laying it on where I want to have it. And as I always say, don't worry about going over the moon or anything, because that's a nice simple thing to put back in yourself. And the moon can be any size you want. So we're just going to layer this lighter blue over the darker blue. I want them all to blend together, so I don't really want a harsh line anywhere at this time. So now I have here, I have a white, the dark blue, the white, the dark blue and a bit of the medium blue, and I've mixed them together as you see, but I've added some white to this so it's going to be that bit lighter because I want this to be the moonlight. So again we're just going to put this all over. It's actually, it doesn't take too long to do this picture. I think it probably took me about 4 hours. That always sounds like a long time when you say it to someone, but when you're actually in there making it, it's surprisingly quick. And it's so enjoyable that time just flies by. So again, this is that base colour, and then I've added extra white to it now because this is roughly where I'm going to have the moon. So I want the lightest area where the moon is. And then again I'm trying to make sure that the colours kind of merge together. And I want to keep the outside, just the very outsides, quite dark. So this is all about me pulling it nice and thinly like you see, and then just laying it over. And I'm doing it so that you can see the colours from underneath as well. So I'm curious, what do you prefer? Do you prefer pictures by moonlight, or do you prefer pictures like sunsets and things like that? I actually don't mind either, but there is something about moonlit pictures for me. I don't do many of them because I think there's not enough variety in a way for me to do them, but I do have a particular thing about moonlit pictures. I like the contrast of the lights and the darks. I think that's what it is. So anyway, so I've put the moon in. I've actually just used white to do the moon, but you could use a cream colour and then add a little white as more of a glow over it if you wanted to. And now I'm just getting some thin bits of this isn't so much white, I've added a little pale blue to this clouds. The only thing at this moment that's white is the moon, so these clouds are pale blue, or you can add some pale blue and white, and I'll explain to you why in a minute. But what we want to do is just have it laid down thinly, just roughly in cloud shapes like I've done. And if you notice, I've got the V of the clouds all heading towards the moon, because the moon for me in this picture is the focal point, and I want to draw your eye to it. Now the reason why I did the clouds in blue and white rather than pure white is because what you can see me doing here is adding some white highlights to the tops of the clouds where the moonlight would hit it. So if I'd done the clouds in white, I wouldn't have this effect. I wouldn't be able to get it because everything's already its lightest colour. So that's why I'll do the same thing with the sea, waves on the sea as well, you'll see in a minute. Save the white for the highlight colours and use your pale blue, things like that, for everything else, and then put the white on top. So I'm just going back in here because it still wasn't quite dark enough around the moon. I wanted the moon to really pop. So this is why I've just gone back in with my darkest blue here. And I'm really just tidying up the horizon line. So now what I've got here, I happen to have a bluey green colour, but if you've got your dark blue and you've got a little bit of green, as long as it's not a bright green, like a turquoise green or something, mix that with your dark wool and then you can start to build the sea. If you don't have a green that you could put with your dark wool, this would be fine. Just add your dark wool and add a touch of your medium blue to it. And you don't need to mix it really, really well because it'll end up looking more wave-like if you leave it not quite so well blended. Now here I've got some of the blue in the sky that I had, that paler blue, and I'm just going to now mix it with my dark green because this is where I start to get that waves and texture in the ocean from my distance. So I've mixed them together and now I'm just going to lay them across. As you can see, because of the light blue mixed in it, it starts to give wavy ripple effects on it. And at this point where you're creating the waves and ripples, but you can start to decide on the angle of your sea, whether you want it coming straight forward or going across the picture, and then just lay your wool in that direction. The bit I'm doing here now is I know I'm going to have a wave here, and so I'm angling my wool to the shape of the wave. It's not a big wave, it's only going to be like a little breaking wave that comes towards the shore. But that's why I'm using the wool to help me angle and show what direction the water's flowing, really. So I'm just going to build up this shape across the picture. And I'm not, if you noticed, I'm not blending the top in, I'm gathering all into a bunch at the top of each wave because I don't want it. I want a nice neat line at the top of the wave, and here is just my dark blue, and I'm laying this across because when I put my little breaking wave bits, the lighter colour over the top, this will be the shadow. So it might look a little odd now, but just add yourself some dark blue just across the top of what's going to be your wave. You'll see in a minute what I mean by the shadow of the breaking little wave over the top. So this at the moment is, I'm now starting to mark in the moonlight that's coming onto the sea. Again, if you look, I'm not using white yet. This is the colours from the sky, the pale blue and light colour. And then I put the pale blue down first, and then I'm going to go back over and add this a narrow strip that's coming towards you of the white. Make sure that the line coming from the moon across the water comes straight to you, because that's how it works. It wouldn't go off at an angle. The light always points to you, so make sure it's coming straight towards you. So it's paler blue as a base part, and then white down the middle to give you that highlighted water effect. And I want to bring that right up to the shoreline. So back on this side now, I'm scrunching up some pale blue and I'm going across the top of that dark colour we put down. It doesn't have to be, you can come over the black in places, it's fine, but we want some of the black showing because that's going to be the shadow under the curling wave. Can you see what I mean? So, and the top of that white, pale blue bit doesn't have to be neat. It can be a bit what's they say, fluffy, because that can be the spray of the water going backwards and that. So don't worry about adding the top ever such in a really neat line. But what we do is we put, so we've got the dark colour as the shadow, then we have this pale blue as the wave, and then we will top over the pale blue with just hints of white just on the back edges, so that it looks like the moonlight's catching it. And here I'm just adding in some more waves, and again this can be the pale blue. If the wave is right under the moonlight, you can add white on the top. If otherwise, I would add pale blue. And I happen to have, this can be pale blue again, but I had a touch of green, and I added a touch of green. I don't think you can really see it, to be honest, when I'd finished it, but at the top of the wave where the light was coming through. So you can do that if you have the nice pale green. So really, at the moment, I'm still just building up the waves that are coming towards you now. And I try to keep the flow going. If you see, I put them, all the bits on at like a diagonal angle. I forgot to put the sand in, so I had to fold back some of the wave colour and put the sand in. And then I'll pull that wave bit forward again and put that back over the sand. So don't do what I do, put your sand in first and then put your wave bit over. Now I don't know whether I showed it, but if you look at the wave now, it looks lovely. It's going off, it's coming up into the air like a wave would. But then I put a wave on nearer me, and I realised that I needed a flat area between each wave. So I went back in and put some wool horizontally straight across the picture, kind of thing, between the two waves to break up the wave effect, if you get what I'm saying. I needed a bit of flat ground so that you had a wave form, and then there was a flat area, and then another wave form. So I don't think I showed it. Sorry, I don't think I showed it. So just bear that in mind, that I went back in and I just laid some wool down so that it didn't look quite so wave and wave, so you had a flat space in between. So now here I'm going back to tidy up the horizon line. That's why I've got the ruler. Where the sky was pale, I've added a darker horizon line, and where the sky was dark, I've added a bit of a pale bit to the horizon line, just so everything stands out a little more. I wanted under the moon to pop a little more, so that's why I've gone back in with some dark. You see where I put that dark, it makes the the reflection on the water really stand out now. I just need to make sure that it's not a harsh line and that I blend that in a little bit into the sky. I don't want to really take that dark above the cloud line, but I do want it to blend in and look natural down the bottom there. And by putting some of the dark under the clouds like this, it also helps the clouds to stand out. But that little gap between the two clouds, I blend some of that dark in and out of that so it's not so harsh. So here I'm just lightening up the sky at the horizon line a little bit here because the sea was darker. And what I'm doing on this little bit, this is a little harsh and I'll go back and sort this out, but when you look at waves you have light bits and dark bits on just the ripples between, and I've got to go and do a little more I think, but I want some lights and darks in this what would be a flat area or flattish area, so that you can see the small little waves and ripply bits. I want a little bit more definition for that bit. I'm just using a little bit of dark just to go around some of the waves very thinly, just so that this is the main wave in the picture, this one I'm working on now, and even though it's not very big I want it to really stand out a bit, so that's why I've gone back over with just some dark bits. Where I've highlighted it in the white on the top of that wave, I've gone behind that little bit and I've added just a touch of darker so that white pops out again on top of the waves. So now I'm working on the sandy area because I wasn't sure I liked what I'd got. So I'm going back now and just building that into a shape I like. You can have as much or as little sand area as you want really. I just wanted it to have a bit of an angle to it. I didn't want it to come straight across the picture. And now what I'm doing is where the moonlight's all shining on the water, I need to break that up with some little dark bits going across for waves, because you wouldn't have a solid white line coming down, so you want to go back in with just some really thin bits, and just on either side of that white line just break it up a little bit with some little darker bits coming into it. I'm going round the front of that wave with the pale blue that's right at the very front here, and then I'm going to highlight it with a little bit of white just where the moonlight would catch. The white bits I would keep mainly to more or less where that moonlight line is coming down, so I would put a little bit of white there on the top of the paler blue wave from underneath. Because what you're attempting to do, or will be doing, is making this front little bit of the wave look 3D, so it's a little bit deeper because it's rolling in. So even if you thought to yourself, well, that front wave would be an inch high, say, the very front bit, then you want to build some depth to that. So we're going to have a dark brown line underneath it in a minute, and then the paler blue will be there, and then some little highlights of white. So up on the moon I just grabbed a little bit of grey and put, what's it, the man in the moon's face kind of thing just on there, just a little bit, so that I broke up that big flat part of the moon. But you don't have to do that bit if you don't want to. And if you get really technical, you could look at a picture of what the moon looks like and actually make that pattern, but I didn't bother with that. So here I've got just some dark brown because I'm on the beach, and I'm just going along the very edge of this wave just to define the wave from the sand and to give it a bit of shadow. So I do this all the way along the wave. Then all we need to do is add a little bit of brown onto the sand to break up that one colour that we had. So I add a little bit of extra brown here and there on it as well. But it's a nice simple picture, it's not that complicated to do, just little steps one at a time. Well, I hope you enjoyed this one. Do have a go and let me know how you get on. If you've enjoyed this, you might like one of the videos on the screen now, and I will see you either Tuesday or Friday for the next picture. Thanks very much for joining me. Bye for now.